My mission is based on my story, right? So I was living in fear with my health, and I had a lot of health issues. And when I learned that I could heal myself and become my own doctor and learn how to self-heal, boy, was that it was super empowering. And then that really expanded back into all other areas of my life. My mentor said, "You only aged 15 minutes during that 4 hours." Literally. You literally only aged 14 or 15 minutes during that 3 hours. So, well, that's when I started doing I was trying stuff. I tried the juicing, but I did it wrong and I didn't know. And I tried the 5 meals a day and I tried low protein and high carb and low carb. And I was trying all these different things and paleo. And I tried all that stuff. And some of it made me feel a little bit better. But bottom line is that my underlying issues were not getting better. If anything, they were getting worse. My skin wasn't clearing up. And the only solution was a pill. What I'm trying to do is, Dan, is give people energy. That's the first thing. I want to give them energy and mental clarity. And if I can give them those two things, now they have the energy to start making those changes because we know everybody out there pretty much is 85% deficient. You're walking around on 15% fuel, even if you're eating organic, because it's not in the soil anymore.
I'm Dan Metcalfe. Thank you for tuning into the Born SuperHuman podcast. I'm so proud of the guests and stories that we bring to you, and I know that you'll enjoy what we have ahead. Please like, subscribe, and follow. It really makes a huge difference in our ability to continue these conversations being brought to you. And if you feel the passion behind Born Superhuman, please share it with your friends and family and leave a comment. I read every one. Now, let's get on with the show. Hey, so welcome back to Born Superhuman. Now, we know that sleep is medicine. We know that exercise is medicine. We know that sunlight is medicine. But probably the thing that we abuse ourselves the most is what we constantly put inside our body. Now, we all know we need sleep more. We need to get out in the sun a little bit more. But today we're going to focus on nutrition, the health aspect, and what's actually killing our system and making us sick. So I'm very excited today to introduce with me Tim James.
Hey, Dan. Thanks for having me on, brother.
No, it's great to have you here. So I got to be on your podcast, which was where we very first introduced, and you have an incredible company called Chemical Free Body. But today I want to go into how did you get into this? What is it that you're doing that's so different? I use your products and I use them religiously and noticed a big improvement in my athletic performance because I was already healthy, but it brought a lot. But my first question to you is what is your mission?
Well, my mission is based on my story, right? So I was living in fear with my health, and I had a lot of health issues. And when I learned that I could heal myself and become my own doctor and learn how to self-heal, boy, was that it was super empowering. And then that really expanded back into all other areas of my life because I'm like, well, geez, if I can, I was going to the doctors and they weren't helping me on all this stuff. And then I learned how to heal myself through using nature and common sense. I'm like, what else have I been lied to about, you know? And so our mission is to bring that awareness to people that creation doesn't make mistakes. You're here for a purpose. And if you got thrown off track, because you're probably a good person, like I knew I was a good person, but I was 42 pounds overweight and I was pooping blood and I had to be life flighted on emergency surgery. And we'll probably talk about all that. But, and my world was shrinking and I had skin issues all over, cracking and bleeding. And I was able to turn that around myself. Like, wow, that's amazing. And I know a lot of people are dealing with health struggles. They have low energy, weight gain. I mean, over 80% of the population is overweight or obese today. Um, you know, it's people aren't as productive. 74% of people are going to jobs they don't like. They're just doing it for a paycheck. That's really not in alignment with our spirit and our true vibrational frequency. And so all that stuff kind of started realigning itself when I got the health thing right. I eventually just started doing a completely different career that I had no idea I could even do. It was even possible. And that became fun. And it's like, this is my career right now, talking to you and these people that are listening to me. It's not even work for me. I'm excited right now. I cannot wait to share my story. I can't wait to tell this because, and I didn't realize this until after I started doing podcasts because then we started getting all these people. Hey Tim, I've got rectal bleeding too, and a lot of people do. I had no idea how many people are bleeding out their butt. Like it's a problem and it's not fun and it's scary and it's painful and there's not a lot of answers out there for people, right? That are from nature. And so anyway, my mission is just to give that awareness and give the inspiration and the actual real world results like, hey, if I can do it, you can do it. I'm just some, redneck Eastern Oregon kid that grew up on a farm and if I can figure it out, so can you.
Well, the beautiful thing here is a lot of people talk it, you live it, you studied it, you became an expert in it. And what I love is you have actionable, result-oriented processes that many people don't have. And so I'm excited to get to that. But before we even get into that and talk about your farm and the purities that you put into your product, for me was probably the most impressive. Tell us about you as a kid. What were you growing up? What was your dreams?
Oh, it was awesome. I mean, growing up as a kid in Eastern Oregon I was born in 1973, so I grew up in the 70s and 80s. And it was awesome. LeGrand was like it's repressed about 20 years from the rest of society. We're 5 hours away from Portland. We don't even identify with the people down there, even though I lived down there for a long time. It's a lot of rednecks, cattle farmers, rodeo, hunting and fishing, and you know, it's a kind of a bedroom community retirement place. But it gets really people move in here, but then it gets really cold in the winter, and then they leave. It's the winters can be pretty rough. And so I grew up on a farm, a small farm, and we got a big garden. So I learned how to, tend to plants and do all that stuff with my mom. And I never really liked weeding the garden, but when I got done, I really felt accomplished because the strawberries looked really good, because they didn't have a bunch of weeds coming out of them and stuff like that. And I got to eat those fresh strawberries and the fresh beans and the raspberries and pick the fresh corn and cucumbers. I mean, I remember having bumper crops of cucumbers. They were everywhere. They went completely out of the garden. They were in the fields growing. And then my mom would, make a bunch of pickles that year, a bunch of dill pickles and a bunch of those, sweet pickles and stuff. And so I grew up doing that. I grew up doing a lot of hunting, fishing. And then my thing was, do I do rodeo or baseball? My best friend was a rodeo star, and I just picked baseball. Probably a good idea because he lost a couple fingers rodeoing, and it's a rough sport. And so I played baseball at a high level for 30 years. So I had that, that I don't know, that team. I always like being part of a team, but also like striving to be my best, you know, extra work in the gym, extra taking extra hacks in the cage after practice is over, going and doing long toss, trying to strengthen my arm, doing forearm exercises, getting my forearms stronger so I can hit the ball a little better. It's just like I was trying to maximize all these areas in baseball. And then when you leave, you can actually take those skill sets with you into business, like maximizing whatever you're doing in business. And then eventually I became an entrepreneur, and that's what I've been doing now is like trying to like be the best, healthiest version. Actually, my goal is like to be the healthiest person on the planet, not the fittest like you. I don't know if I want to go I do marathons. I mean, I did run a marathon. I have no problem doing those things, but I just want to be the healthiest, and I want to vibe high, and I want to have high frequency, and I want to have my immune system running at the top because I don't want to have to go get surgery again. That was very scary, and so a lot of my stuff initially I did to move away from fear, but now it's not a fear thing. I'm doing it because I love myself. So I'm doing the exact opposite of fear now, which is love. And a lot of people think love and hate is opposite, but it's not the case. Hate is like more of a something that we choose. Like the fear thing and the love thing, that's fine. That's the carrot and the stick right there. And so sometimes we need that stick to get us moving away from things. But eventually we want to transition to a point where we're moving towards love. And dude, that was an epic change for me. Like, because I had never, the way I grew up, it's like guys are supposed to be this tough, macho deal. And, after I went through the process of healing myself, I started realizing it's like I finally got to the point where, I didn't care anymore what people thought. And I'm like, I want to sing and I want to dance and I want to do these things. And that's me. And I want to start playing music. And I finally picked up a guitar and started playing music. And I just want to sing and dance and do these and be fun and be out in nature and hike and do all these other things. And I started actually living my true passion and my purpose. And then so the business is just an extension of me trying to help others see their potential and then help them meet them right where they're at, which is probably scared, confused, not knowing what to do. And now it's expanded because now we have people like yourself that are like super biohackers. And I've usually got something I can share with them and give them a little gold nugget to help them take it to the next level.
Yeah, because it's all about real life, and people listening in right now will be looking at it and going, I love the fact that you're still tapping into that childhood boy to a certain extent that had goals. They're no longer controlled by society's expectations, but you're free to live, which is, for me, we don't age because of age, if that's the right way to put it. If we continue to play and explore and have that curiosity we had as a kid, it's incredible what we can bring to our life when we take action. So
Dude,
where
one of my mentors, this is such an important point. This is amazing. One of my mentors said that you know when it's like when you're doing a task that you don't like to do, it's like maybe you got in detention and after school or you got in trouble when you were a kid in recess and everybody else is out playing and you're just like it takes forever. Like the clock's like and the seconds are it takes forever, or you're at a job you don't like or you're in a relationship that's not working and you're dreading it. Time just seems to, it's so slow and monotonous. But let's say you randomly run into like your one of your best friends from childhood or something, and then you hang out for like 4 hours. You're lost in conversation, everything, and then you're like, "Oh my God, look at the time! Holy crap, it's been 3 hours. Geez, it was so good seeing you, but it felt like it was 15 minutes." My mentor said you only aged 15 minutes during that 4 hours. Literally. You literally only aged 14 or 15 minutes during that 3 hours. So, depending on how you're going through life, is depending on how you're going to age. Period. So, that's one of the reasons I follow that formula is following my excitement, my joy, and my passion to the best of my ability until I can take it no further. And I have zero insistence on an outcome. So, the bottom line is the goal, the only goal that I have is to stay in the thread of excitement and joy and synchronicity. And by doing that, I'm I'm not aging like everybody else, right? Literally. And so I believe that. I totally believe that.
Well, it's like I say, we don't stop playing because we age because we stop playing.
Yeah.
We have every excuse because we're so busy pursuing comfort and lack of work. And when I say work, we're talking about the stress that we used to take as a kid. When you were a baseball player and you go to the gym, we were stressing our bodies every day. We were putting ourselves in that competitive environment within ourselves, and yet we thrived. Then we get to a
Hmm.
certain point where we go, I don't want to work that hard anymore. Well, what will happen is you can only sustain what you're doing. As soon as you stop doing it, you're going to decline. So this is fascinating for me. Where did it go wrong? It sounded like you had this great upbringing. You had the healthy foods. You were doing what you love to do, the baseball. And then suddenly you went into this story that you started off with of decline. Where did it go wrong?
Yeah, well, I would say that, growing up, I had some of the healthy foods, but we were products of our environment. My parents, very loving and unknowingly, started bringing processed foods into the home. Remember those TV dinners?
Hmm.
My mom loved that because throw it in the oven and here you go, right? Because Salisbury steak and a little pie thing with it and mashed potatoes and stuff in aluminum, giving you, dementia, Alzheimer's. But I was like, ooh, TV dinners, woo, or ooh, McDonald's, and I got my little treat, and that was like a special thing for us. Once a week, maybe we'd go to a fast food joint, go to McDonald's or something. I wanted that toy and that Happy Meal, and it was so fun. It was like they just hand your food in a plastic sack, and off you go. Just kind of a bizarre thing, completely removed from nature. But so I was on the processed food train, but because I was healthy and moving all the time as an athlete, it didn't matter. I was, just I did well. Well, what happened was is after college, then like you said, the drive to be the best physically wasn't there as much. I was still going to the gym and stuff, but then I just started eating, and then after college, I learned about this thing called booze right during college, and my freshman year, some of the guys in the baseball team were going and getting some whiskey and some stuff and going to the alcohol store. And I was like, not old enough. And I was like, Tim, what do you want? And I'm like, oh, I'll just get what he got, which was Jim Beam Rye, which is not the best whiskey ever. And we got drunk 19 days in a row. That was my first introduction to alcohol. Was on the baseball team, getting shit faced for 19 days in a row, and it was a lot of fun and all that stuff. And I don't really remember what happened, but I remember doing it. And then so, drinking became part of the deal in college. And then afterwards, it was into business. Hey, we're having cocktail hour. Hey, come on over, have a couple drinks. Hey, we're having a party at our house. And I just followed suit. I'm just like, everybody's drinking. I never thought about it.
Mm.
And I wasn't like an alcoholic at all, because I was up at 5 a.m. Actually, I got up at 4:49 just to be a little bit of an edge. And I'd have my workouts and I'd be back home to wake up my kids and take them out and get the chickens and do that thing. But on Fridays and Saturdays, I would go out and party with these guys I was doing business with and drink a lot and sometimes drink myself into a stupor. And I did that for a long time. And so the staying up late, completely destroying my circadian rhythms, alcohol, destroying my hormones, all the time. The only thing that I had was the working out thing, and then it just eating shitty food. I mean, processed food. So it all caught up to me. By 37, I was a mess, and then I had to be life flighted.
Yeah, I look at it, I see people in the gym and they'll come in and they'll brag about how much they partied, how much they drank, and they could look good on the on the outside because they're still younger, but we're not as aware of what's happening on the inside because we're a very visual kind of community in the gym. It's if you look good, you think you're healthy. And yet I was just out at the Mr. Olympia competition and the life expectancy of these big bodybuilders is under 50. So you can
Oh
look
yeah.
great, but what's happening on the inside? So tell us some of the things that started coming up from the sickness that suddenly revealed itself, even though you may have.
Yeah, it was a slow process. It really was. It just slowly I started gaining weight every year, and then all of a sudden it was like, okay, I can't really do what I want to do anymore. Like workouts were becoming more difficult. Sleep was becoming worse. I started having more stress. And I became a financial advisor. I was taking over this big company. There was like 18 employees, three locations, and I was busy working. That was it. It was just work, pay the bills, raise the kids, the weekends running around, drive to LeGrand, see the parents. Every other week I was driving down here to see my mom and dad, right? And so that's 9 hours of driving. And just kind of going along with a lot of restaurants, especially the weekends, taking the kids out for breakfast and overconsumption of foods. Whatever they didn't eat, I'd finish the plate. Like, I turned into a garbage disposal unit pretty much, and I didn't realize why. I didn't know that it was because I was nutrient deficient on a cellular level, and that I was feeding parasites and candida and stuff like that. So that's kind of how it all happened. But I was trying to get healthy. I remember reading a book about, five meals a day, and I tried that, and it kind of worked for a little bit. And then I started telling everybody. I bought books and gave them to everybody. I'm kind of an evangelist when it comes to these things. If I find something good, I have this moral obligation to tell other people about it. And then that didn't work after a while. Then I bought a book on juicing. So I went down and bought the wrong type of juicer, started juicing a bunch of sugary crap. Boy, it tasted good. Actually felt like a little energy because I was getting a sugar high. And then after 30 days, I didn't lose any weight. So that went under the cupboard and I never used it again. Um, and then it was when my friend Charles got diagnosed with cancer, and he said, "Hey, he dropped the bomb on me. I got cancer, blah blah blah." And I remember looking the picture on his desk because I was in his office when he told me. And usually every year he'd get a new picture with him and his wife and his son Charlie would go on a vacation somewhere new around the world. And they would get a family photo taken on the beach or wherever they were at. And that would be the photo he would live on his desk for the year. And then he'd put a new photo every year in the new big vacation. And I remember looking at that photo and going, well, shit, Charles is going to be in that photo next year. Like he's toast. Like, because my experience as a human being, anybody that gets cancer dies. My aunt got it. She got melanoma skin cancer. It spread to her lungs and all that stuff. She died. My mom did the hospice care for her, and I always tell anybody that's ever done hospice care, you are an absolute more angel. And I actually did my mom's care when she died of cancer, and so now I'm really know what it's like watching them go through the pain. Just to get in and out of bed is like, you
Mm.
know, and then you just get done taking care of them, and everything's dialed in. You're like, I'm gonna get some sleep, and the phone rings. Tim, I need to go potty, and I got to get up and walk across the farm and get her to the bathroom, and I got to run because she's. You got to go. You got to go. It's 24/7 being on call. Then my grandma died of brain cancer. I had a buddy on my baseball team that got stomach cancer, but he was chewing tobacco, so we figured it trickled down into his gut, and that's what caused it. So that one kind of made sense. And the other one was just like, well, you just get older, and that's what happens, right? But Charles was 43. It's like, and he, what? And he was like a vegetarian, so he was supposedly the healthiest one out of all of us, and he's got cancer. So we went to the Hippocrates Wellness Center in Florida. At the time, they'd been around about 61 years. And it was started by some gal named Ann Wigmore that healed herself of like stage 4 colon cancer with like lawn grass and some herbs. Her grandmother, her surrogate grandmother, was the village doctor in Lithuania, so she learned a lot from her grandma about natural healing. So that whole institute got built on that. They were kind of the inventors of green juice, and that's where I learned about that. And he's like, "We're going to go there," and I was like, "I want you to go with me." So I did. Right now, leading up to that point, before that, um, 42, I was 42 pounds overweight, just so people know what I was dealing with. I had skin issues all over my body. Started with my left knee. I had eczema. It was getting thicker and thicker. It would crack and bleed. I'd bump it on a coffee table. It was like somebody stabbed me with a knife pick. And I'm, grimace. And people are, you okay? I'm like, oh, yeah, I just bumped my knee right on the corner. I'd play it off. But you don't realize how much you bump your body on things until you have a sore spot on your body. And it seems like you're bumping it all the time. Um, and so then I had then that spread to my elbows. I'd be teaching my financial advising clients on whiteboards, and then they're like, "Tim, your elbow's bleeding," and white shirts bleeding with red blood. And then I'd sometimes at night, it would, especially in the wintertime when there's not as much sunshine, it would be worse. And then I'd have to take showers with my shirt on to help soften it up to get the shirt off because when you peel it off, it was very painful. I switched to black shirts like you're wearing, so my clients couldn't see the blood stains. I was, I was hiding now. I'm going to all these little hiding places, right? And I stopped going out and being as social, and I didn't like taking my shirt off in public anymore. Not because I was overweight, pretty much everybody else is, but it's because my skin. I look like a bleeding salamander. And then I developed another skin issue. I had brain fog, and I wasn't sleeping well. Very, I mean, I would get gassed out very easily. Eventually I stopped when we moved and I got away from my gym buddies. I, then I, the only exercise I was getting was walking my dogs, and I had to force myself to go do it because the dogs, as a dog owner, I'd take care of them.
Mm.
That was the only exercise I was getting. And then, I mean, just lots of issues, man. I just didn't feel good. My gut was messed up. I was pooping rocks basically. I had acid reflux 24/7. I had Tums and Rolaids in every car next to my couch. I was eating them all the time, and it was painful. And then going to the bathroom on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not very much pain, and 10 just shoot me, get me out of this life, of this planet. It was a 6 or a 7, sometimes an 8, and I'd be sitting on the toilet just going, "Oh God," and then I would get anal tears because the poop was like rocks, and bright red blood, and then I had all this dark red blood coming in from the inside from bleeding deep in my colon and wherever else, maybe my small intestine, I don't know. So I had internal bleeding, and doctors wanted me to go on Prilosec and blah 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 all this stuff. So yeah, it wasn't fun. My life was shrinking. I was a very A-type, outgoing person, and I felt my world was getting very small. And then finally, we had a trip down to Peru with my wife and her dad, who was a medical doctor. He'd never had a vacation in 30 years, and so we planned this beautiful trip. Flew into Lima, Peru, where he was from. Then we flew up to uh, Tumbes, which is just south of Ecuador, and had this beautiful beach, pristine, unreal. I mean, seashells looked like they should have been in the Smithsonian. I'd never seen a wild natural beach before. It was epic, and we were having a great time. And then we went out deep sea fishing, and I was starting not feeling good. And they thought I had motion sickness, but that wasn't. I said I fish all the time. Like I don't get motion sickness. Oregon coast, Hawaii. I do this all the time. I never get sick. That's not what it is. Oh no, he's got motion sickness. When I got back, I wasn't getting better. Then her dad all of a sudden went into doctor mode, and he's like, "Oh, appendicitis," and he's like, "We have to get you to the hospital. You could die." I'm like, "Okay." So we packed all our shit and we went down to the airport, the little airport there, but we missed the one plane flight out of there per day by 15, 20 minutes. And so now what do we do? Well, he rented a van and we drove 6 hours in the middle of the night down to the closest hospital in a town called Peoria. And when I got there, by the way, the I keep forgetting to tell this, but I used to tell this story was it was a bumpy road, very bumpy, and every bump was like somebody was stabbing me with a knife in my gut. When I got there, my clothes were soaked. I'd sweated so much and so much pain that paper money in my wallet was wet. And I was exhausted. I've never ever been that tired before in my entire life. Even when I ran a marathon, I wasn't this tired. Okay. I was friggin' done. And they put me on an examination table, and there's a bunch of 500 bugs flying around in me. It was like a MASH unit from the 50s. And I'm like, well, this ain't good, and I'm just in pain. I'm walking bent over like an old person, like at a 90-degree angle. I couldn't stand upright. And he didn't want them to operate on me in that situation. So he set up the OR, booked the next commercial plane flight out of there, and then he had him dope me up with a lot of stuff so I could walk upright. And then he went first in the airport. I hid behind him, and then my wife was right behind me, and they were kind of like distractors because I wasn't doing good. And I got on that plane, so I was secretly being life flighted to get the surgery. And so I got off the plane flight, got a taxi, took a taxi down to the hospital. As soon as I got to the hospital, they threw me on the gurney, and I went right into surgery, and they saved my life. And so this is something I want to point out is where Western medicine shines. A lot of people are not aware that Western medicine it was born out of crisis care. It was born out of wartime when people got shot with bullets and shrapnel and legs got blown off with, tank rounds and grenades and landmines and that kind of stuff. And they were very good at saving people's lives in these crisis care situations. This is a very necessary part of our entire medical field. We need this. Accidents do happen. But when it comes to the chronic stuff, they get an F. They have failed. And it's not the good people that are working in it, it's the system. And you cannot change that system inside of that system. So the system has to be a new system. And so I learned a couple things when I come out of surgery. Number one, I don't want to have surgery again. Okay. And number two, my life and my health affects other people, not just me. Because I ruined the trip for my wife and her dad and me. And her dad, never had a vacation in 30 years. Where does he end up? Back in the hospital, taking care of me. And so that is a very important lesson is like your health doesn't affect just you, it affects everybody else around you. Right. And you don't want to be a burden to people. I didn't want to be I felt horrible. I felt horrible about the whole thing. We had spent time and money and a lot of thousands of dollars for that trip and just it was gone. And so I ended up recovering from that. And then a few years later, I ended up at the institute with my buddy Charles. And man, that's when everything changed. I mean, right out of the gate. And I can talk about that now if you want that experience.
Yeah, so let's talk about what happened between that time though, because you've got going in to have your operation and then a
Yeah.
couple of years later, just what were you doing during that time? Because a lot of people listening now will be going, okay, well, what should I do to start the journey? I know we're going to get to that.
Well, that's when I started doing like I was trying stuff. I was trying. I tried the juicing, but I did it wrong and I didn't know. And I tried the 5 meals a day and I tried low protein and high carb and low carb and I was trying all these different things and paleo and I mean, I tried all that stuff and some of it made me feel a little bit better, but bottom line was is that my underlying issues were not getting better. If anything, they were getting worse. My skin wasn't clearing up, and the only solution was a pill. And
Mm.
I would get prescriptions, but I would never take them because I'm just like, you'd read the side effects, and like, I remember this one medication was like, one of the side effects was rectal bleeding, and I'm like, I already have that. That makes no sense to me. So I just stuck with Tums and Rolaids and just kept barreling and just grin and bear it. I was like an ostrich, head in the sand. I'm a guy, tough it up, you know,
You'll
move
get
on,
better.
figure it out.
Yeah, I remember when coming back from a biohacking event, Utah stopped in Las Vegas for a sleep overnight and watching the medical commercials that were on television. And it's amazing. It'll be a 2 minute commercial where you have roughly 30 seconds to 40 seconds of what it could do for you. And the next minute 20 is sped up so you can't actually hear what the side effects are. And the side effects are worse than what you're going through. But they don't want you to
Yes.
know that. And again, it's not about fixing, it's about covering up. So let's get to Charles. Let's get down to Florida.
Yeah, so we January 1st, 2011, we fly to Florida, and on the plane flight there, you remember I'm the guy that's hunting and fishing. And just to let you guys all know like how much I was into hunting and fishing, my oldest son's middle name is Hunter, and my youngest son's name is Fisher. So it's like I literally named him after hunting and fishing. That's how much I was into it. So we're flying there, and Charles is like, "Oh, hey, by the way, there's no meat, there's no dairy, there's no salt, there's no sugar, there's no vinegar, there's nothing cooked over 115 degrees." He was reading out of this little manual thing. I was like, "No meat?" I mean, I didn't say it, but I'm like, because I'm going there to help my friend. I'm looking him as like the Walking Dead man. That's what I'm like crying on the inside every moment looking at him. And I was just trying to support him, but I knew in my heart he was going to die because that had been my experience. There is some little tiny bit of hope, but it's like, come on, race for the cure. We're spending billions of dollars, government spending billions of dollars trying to find that we have our best minds on this stuff, and we're going to go to this little podunk place in Florida and drink green juice, and he's going to heal. You know, like in my mind, so that was all about my belief systems, right? I was on channel two. That was the vibrational frequency I was at. But I was a good dude and I wanted to support my friend on his way out. And, you know, I hope that maybe he would be some one of those lucky ones that had a spontaneous remission or whatever. But, you know, I was just like, I was very sad. I was very sad. So now he said there's no meat there. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. It's like, no meat. How am I going to live? It's like, you know, I'm freaking out. And then finally, I'm like, well, they've been in business 61 years. Obviously, people don't die. Get your stuff together here, Tim. Focus on Charles. Ah. So I just showed up. Day one, my acid reflux was gone. Day one. So what did they do? They gave us you drink water, purified water with lemon and lime juice in it. Drink that, okay? Then we'd have a fresh pressed wheatgrass shot and a big green juice, like two 16-ounce green juices, and we'd drink those. We went to the gym. We started moving our body a little bit. We did infrared saunas. We did hot cold plunges with the from the hot tub to the cold plunge 7 times. We just started doing all these little things that were there at the institute. What we were doing, we were changing our habits and our daily lifestyle. And then they would make these living food salads, and everything was like most of the stuff was harvested out of their own garden, and all the thing were tons of sprouts, sunflower sprouts and pea sprouts and buckwheat lettuce and red clover sprouts and broccoli sprouts and radish sprouts and just you name it. I mean, they had all kinds of sprouts there, onion sprouts and garlic sprouts and everything. So it was living foods. That was the big thing. It was like wild creatures on the planet eat living foods. You should too because you're from nature. And so it kind of made sense. And so I'm freaked out. So the first day, the first meal, I piled my plate like 3 stories high because I'm like, I got to fill up here. And I ate about half of it, and I felt horrible, Dan, because I had to go. I was like, I had to scrape it into the thing. I was like, oh my God, they're gonna see me. And which is kind of funny because then later the chef was teaching a class. He goes, "We always get these new people here. They're afraid they're gonna starve to death, and so we see them dumping about half of their plate." I was like, "Was he talking about me?" Like, but he gives it, and I've been back years later, and he still gives the same talk because that's what we do. A lot of us are doing it. We're freaked out because why? Because it's different. It's scary. It's different than we're used to. And then on Wednesday, they said, "Hey, today is liquid nourishment day, so now we're not going to eat any heavy food." And I'm like, "What?" I looked at Charles. I'm like, these people are crazy. Like, not only do they not eat meat, but then on Wednesdays they don't even eat food, right? So, but they taught us a class and explained why. The funny thing was, by Wednesday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 4 days into it, I wasn't even hungry. It was no problem not to eat. And the reason why is because my cells finally had nourishment for the first time in probably 37 years. First time ever. Because I was given up at adoption, so I never even got my mother's breast milk. So I came out of a hole of deficiency from the get go. And so that was awesome. The first class I attended was 4.5 hours long. It was called Internal Awareness, and boy, everybody should go to that class. And I've been teaching that class for years. And it explains from the time you chew food what processes happen as it goes through your stomach and gets hit with the hydrochloric acid and all the enzymes from the mouth and blah blah blah, goes through the duodenum and changes from acid to alkaline, and then it starts getting absorbed in the small intestine and work all the way through the colon and out the door. And they explained everything. I'm like, wow, that was interesting. And the big takeaway though was the average person has 6 to 12 pounds of impacted fecal material in that colon. And that is disease causing funk and gunk and junk, and it's leaching back into your system, and you want to get it out of there. Your colon is a garbage removal system. It is not a storage tank. And so they were trying to sell us on getting colon hydrotherapy, aka colonics. And for those of you that don't know what that is, because I didn't, you're basically sitting on they insert a tube rectally, and water gently goes in and out of your colon, and it cleans up all that crap out of your colon and get you right again. It's just water, and that's what you're made of. So it's not a big deal. But I was freaked out. So I elbowed Charles, and I was like, hey, dude, I came here to help you, but I ain't doing that deal. Then they explained everything, and then they actually did virtual colonoscopy. So, see, they'd been doing this 61 years. They knew the belief systems in guys like me. Like, I'm not doing that. My ego was in the way. I was scared. I was a grown, big, tough man that was scared about getting that water treatment and somebody down there messing around with my butt. That was kind of where I was at. But then they were geniuses because then he goes, "We're going to go inside of colons and show you what's going on." So they went inside of this is a 24-year-old female, and she has, I think she had like Hashimoto's, some Graves' disease, some type of thyroid issue, and she also has thrush, which is a yeast infection. Now, I'm thinking, okay, we're going to go look inside of somebody's butt. That's probably going to have a pink lining and brown stuff in there. That's just what I thought. Not saying it, I just thought it. And then in we go, and we go in there, and it was all white and yellow. She was completely overgrown with yeast. And everybody in the audience, there's like 50 of us, are all like, oh, that don't look good. Then they went to a 65-year-old male, and he had stage 4 colon cancer. Inside of his colon was black as midnight, like tar, and he had parasites crawling around, white little worms moving around. Now everybody in the room's freaking the F out. We're all just, our skin's crawling. We're like, oh my God. The doctor turns around and he said, hey, just so you guys know, this parasite deal is not a third world affair. Let me repeat, this is not a third world affair. Okay? Almost every one of you has parasites. And we're not just talking about like these tapeworms, hookworms, and pinworms you can see with the human eye. We're talking about amoebas and other things that are smaller, that are intercellular and get into your tissues and stuff. And he goes, "You want to get them out." When I saw that slide, then I'm like, "I'm getting colon hydrotherapy." I mean, I'm just like, I'm gonna wash them out, and I'm freaked out, right? So that's where fear served me. Then they showed a 45-year-old woman with breast cancer. Most of her colon was black like tar, a little bit of brown stuff. And then they showed this healthy person that had been on this Hippocrates lifestyle for a while, clean pink colon, brown stuff, looked right, and she was super healthy. And I'm like, I'm gonna do what she's doing. And so I got up in the middle of class and I was signing up on the form because he said after class you can sign up on this form. And I was he was teaching. And he turned around. I'm signing up. He's like, "Well, Tim, we're gonna do that later." And I'm like, I'm almost done. I'm getting. And the next day I got the colon hydrotherapy thing. I got a little trouble because I was supposed to sit down, but I'm like, I'm first. I'm getting the parasites out. And they weighed me. I did colon hydrotherapy, and then they weighed me again, and I dropped 11 pounds of impacted garbage that was inside of me in one hour session, and I felt so much lighter and better. And then the next day at the table, we were having lunch with people. I'm sitting with Charles, and this lady is like, I was like, "Hey, you have a parasite crawling out of your eye." And she's like, "What?" And she's like, "Oh my God." And she runs off to the bathroom. And so these parasites start actually leaving the body, right? Because what happened was we were all living these acidic lifestyles. And so when you have acid in your system, this is the perfect environment or terrain for harmful organisms, viruses, mold, yeast, parasites, fungi, all this stuff. They love it. They love low oxygen and high acid. And so what were we doing? We left that lifestyle. Now we're at this utopia place and we're just pumping in oxygen and alkaline. And so we had changed the internal terrain, aka they started exiting stage left. It's kind of like having a polar bear and a penguin dropped off in Miami Beach. They're not going to stay there. They're going to start swimming north or south. They want a cold, better climate. these parasites were coming out of people's pores in their skin, out of their eyes, out of their butt, all kinds of stuff. And so it was crazy when we first got there, but we're with all the 100, 150 people going through this at the same time with us, and you build all these bonds, and we're watching people having healing, and then after I went through that detox period, I woke up and I felt unreal. And I looked at Charles. I said, "Dude, we've discovered the fountain of youth." I said, "My arms are tingling with energy. I feel amazing. How do you feel?" He goes, "I feel awesome." I said, "Dude, we're gonna go home. I can't believe I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna give up all meat except for bacon, and we're gonna go home and crush this. And you're gonna make it." I've talked to all these people. There's tons of people here that have healed of cancer, and yours, from what we gather, is kind of a mild one. And he did. And so it's 15 years later. I just saw him. He's got a new relationship, new baby, like new business, and he went from bankruptcy, bad relationship, and cancer to all this. He's completely recrafted his life. In 60 days, I dropped the 42 pounds. My friends were astonished. Everybody started asking me questions, and before too long, I started teaching classes at my home. I've had 5,500 people to my home teaching these detox nutrition dinner classes, and we ended up starting a company where we were delivering sprouts to like 40 to 60 cancer patients a week in the Portland, Vancouver area. And then I started Chemical Free Body, and here I am today.
Incredible story. And if you look at Charles, his adversity actually saved your life.
Oh
Because,
yeah, it's the best thing that ever happened to us.
yeah, what an incredible gift. I have to ask a couple of questions before we move on. The colonoscopy itself didn't remove the disease that was in you because
No,
obviously,
that was colon hydrotherapy.
okay, colon hydrotherapy.
The colonoscopy is what they showed in the detox class visually, so we could see what was inside of people that were sick versus somebody healthy. They were showing inside sick people versus a healthy person. That's what motivated me to do the colonic, aka colon hydrotherapy, colon water therapy. And
Okay.
everybody should do this. Let me repeat, everybody should get colon hydrotherapy. And I know 50% of you right now are shaking your head. I will never do that.
Well, I can
I'm
tell you,
telling you, everybody needs to do it. There's a place in called Angel Farms in Hawaii, and I believe they were like very good on parasites and stuff. They put people on green juices and herbs, and they do a colonic or colon hydrotherapy session every day. One of my clients went there, and he said what was interesting that he learned is somewhere between days 11 and 13, the people that came there for parasites and stuff, but if they also had fibromyalgia, all their fibromyalgia symptoms were gone, like gone, somewhere between day and 11 and 13. So is colon hydrotherapy? I have a guy here in Boise. He sends me testimonies. I've been on his show. Like every week or two, I get a mailer, and there's another person healed of this, healed of cancer, healed of this, fibromyalgia problems, rheumatoid arthritis, colon hydrotherapy. Like, clean up the mess. We're all polluted. We live on a polluted planet. It's one of the, wow, it's powerful.
and I've had it done, I think 4 times at least, that I've gone and had it done, and I got competitive in there because you know how much can you take and how much, and I'm like, and she goes, God, are you sure you don't want to stop? I said, no, let's go a little bit more, and I'm like, so again, follow what they teach. It's not a competition, but
Yeah.
um, how much of the parasites were removed because of that? Because I've got to believe that a lot of it was because of the nutrition you were taking that was healing your body, not just the colon itself.
Well, it's all of it. I mean, you think about it like, let's say you have a bunch of garbage going into a tank, and that garbage is accumulating on the walls of the tank. The colon hydrotherapy is basically cleaning off the walls of the tank and then changing your lifestyle, changes the stuff that was going in. Instead of putting garbage in anymore, you stop doing that. It's
But
really
with
simple. If you look at your colon like an alley, and the garbage companies strike, what do people do? The garbage piles up in the alley, and then the rats and the bugs come in. The garbage company gets whatever they want. They get their raises. They come back in. They remove the garbage, and the bugs and the rats go away. It's just that simple. So I stopped putting in garbage into my body, and I cleaned up the garbage that was already there.
But
That's
would
it.
the hydrotherapy itself get rid of the parasites that are in there, or
Well,
is
it's going to get, yeah, in that localized area in the colon, but there could be other parasites. Like I said, there's amoebas. I went home, Dan, and I started looking online because for videos of other colonoscopies going into people because I wanted to show people in my classes, like, watch this, because I could talk about it, but if when I saw that video, I was like, I signed up, right? Whoa, pictures were 60,000 words. So I was showing people that video, and then people were like, "Oh my God!" And they're like, "You need to go see Rebecca over at Colon Care, or you can go see this gal over here at this company and locally, and I started sending them lots of clients because I'd scare the crap out of them, literally.
Literally, yeah.
It was awesome, but I'm helping them to heal.
But the thing is, a hydrotherapy, colon hydrotherapy itself won't take care of all the problems. It's got to be a lifestyle change. You can't have
Yeah,
someone
of
going out and
course.
eating McDonald's every day and drinking alcohol, different stuff, and then saying, "Well, I'm getting a hydrotherapy every, once a week. I'm okay." It's still got to be more than just that. But that
Of
was the
course.
eye opener. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's just it's in the beginning you do a lot of it, and then as you get healthier, then it gets less and less. And I do colon hydrotherapy like once or twice a year now just for maintenance. It's
Sure.
not something I do all the time.
So we've now got you healthy. You're dropping, or you've dropped the weight. And for people that are listening, on the audio version, Tim's extremely healthy. If you saw him, you'd think he's been kind of like this, ideology of health his whole life. Because how can you go from one extreme, to another extreme unless you were living it? So
Yeah,
then
people actually see my before pictures and they can't even believe it was me. They're like, I can't believe that's you.
And that could be anybody, right? I mean, anybody listening, going through the right processes can have incredible results
Oh
in a
yeah.
relatively short time compared to what we're fed. Because again, the message system that we're fed is to keep us unhealthy. So it's a financial gain for those people that have the drugs, the pills, the tablets, and the therapies that keep you sick so they can stay, financially profitable. But you've now come back, you're now teaching. I've been to your lectures that you had with your group. It was brilliant and great people that are in there. But where did you now go? Because you end up at a farm where you decide to take things under your own directive. You're not going to wait for other people to provide you what you need.
Well, yeah, so the goal was it was actually my mom and dad's needs. Like my mom called me and said, I can't do this anymore. I'm taking care of your dad and it's just too much. And then sometimes she'd call me, like and be like, they switched his medications. He's walking around out in the driveway talking to himself. I mean, it was scary for her. Like her husband's slipping away. And guys usually weigh about twice as much as their wives, typically. And so how's she going to help this guy when he falls? And it's tough. And the caregivers actually end up dying sooner than the spouse care as a caregiver will die sooner than the person they're caring for because it wears you the F out. It really does.
Mhm.
And I didn't realize that how much it was until I had to live that with my mom's deal. So I moved back home to help my mom and dad, help my mom with my dad. No big deal. But then my mom fell right after I got here. And then all of a sudden I went from splitting time taking care of my dad to 100% taking care of my mom and 90% on my dad. And so that was a lot. And then my mom finally got better about 8 months later, physical therapy. And then boom, then she got the cancer diagnosis and the cancer started breaking her bones apart. It was horrible. And I did that deal for months. And then she passed away March 4th of 2024. Now I'm just taking care of my dad, who's kind of blind and deaf. And, he likes cookies and coffee and that kind of stuff. He's on all these pills. And I've tried. I've tried nice. I've tried mean Tim. I've tried all of it. I've tried every face I could to get him to change. And I realized that he's on his own journey. And I actually realized that my dad is an angel. And what I mean by that is like on a higher level, he signed up for this gig to go through that much pain, to experience that much pain, to create the contrast for me. So I have such a resolve for this because I have to go to the pharmacy every week and get my dad's thing, and I'm looking at all I see is pharmacy when I'm there, and I look at the people and the quality of their skin and their vitality in that line, and it's not there. The only people that I would say that are vital coming in there, I will see like a young woman once in a while, and she's probably there for her birth control or her anxiety medication. It hasn't she hasn't had the processed foods have not and the pills haven't got to her yet. But I'm actually watching people change. Like there's this one pharmacist there, and I thought, wow, she's actually kind of pretty, and then she's just kind of her skin tone now is kind of going down. She's gaining weight, and I'm watching her age, and like right before my eyes. It's crazy. It's crazy what's happening.
And this is what's incredible is it doesn't have to be that way. And yet society's taught us, well, it's just going to happen. Like we said, we're just getting older. This is what happens when you get older. Yeah, I see people that are 90 years old running marathons, and I see people that are 40 that can't get out of a car. It's not because of the age. And you're spot on here, Tim, because I have the same with my dad. I have the same with my mum. My mum's a doctor, brilliant brain, but so busy giving to everybody else and not taking care of herself. And her husband just passed away. She was the caregiver, and it's taken her down. It just so
Yep.
happens that, she could have gone before him. But the hardest thing, and maybe the biggest message in this whole podcast that we're doing today, is it's up to the person to decide they want to have a better life, that they're willing to make the sacrifices of what they think is enjoyable and change to then come back and go, life is so much more than I was led to believe, but nobody can do it for you. If you listen, you say, oh, that's great, but you're not willing to make that sacrifice of what you think is best for you, you will end up on the same path, but with knowledge that you could have had to change your life.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is a choice. And it's almost like, what's the word? Like, I don't know, like it's it's not unbelievable, but like even like there was this one pivotal moment. Like I was experiencing rapid change, right? Now, one of the skin issues that I had on my back shoulder was like it was like this weird fat bubble. I don't even know what the hell it was. But when we went down to Peru, um, my wife's dad being a doctor, and he was like really, he was running like the number one or two hospital in Lima, and there's like 18, 20 million people. There's a big state of the art medical facility. He's like, oh, send him over to my, uh, I said, I got this thing, and he looked at it, and this my skin issue, and he's like, oh, he goes, I'll send you over to my friend. His friend was a plastic surgeon. So he sent me over there and he looked at it and he got some thing out and injected me with some stuff. And it was cortisone or something. I don't know what it was. And it ate it away. And then it was kind of like indented and it was kind of purpley colored, but it was gone. And I was like, okay, well, it's better. It's on the back. I can't really see it, whatever. I got enough. I'm bleeding everywhere else anyway. So, but I was in the healing process right then. All that stuff was clearing up. And 60 days later, after I changed my lifestyle, well, first what? I come back and then bloop, 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 three more bumps around it were growing. Like it was still there. Now it's growing around it in another area. I'm like, crap. What if this happens to my face? That was my thought. What if that stuff over there starts popping on my face or my neck where people can actually see it and I can't cover it up? That was my thought and my biggest fear. And so I did the lifestyle for 60 days and I dropped all the weight and stuff. And then we were getting back ready to go to Peru again. This was years later. And I told Lily, I was like, hey, can you talk to your dad about that doctor? Because I want to get this fat thing taken care of. And then she looked at it because I said, I got those three other bumps now. And then she's like, it's gone. And I was like, what? She's like, there's no bumps. They're gone. And I was like, what? And I ran into the bathroom. And I looked over my shoulder. I'm like, no way. I was like, holy shit. Like, I I healed it with the lifestyle. The lifestyle did it. And that moment was like it just the tumblers tick, 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 tick. And then I was just like I'm like, okay, like this is powerful. Like that was the moment that I knew I could heal myself. Even though I had seen the changes and stuff because I was prepared to go get that shot again and I hate needles.
Mm.
And it was a big moment for me. And I'm just like, wow, what eating healthy? I'm like, and then right after that, then the classes started.
Incredible. That's it again with Born Superhuman, coming back from my own story. We're all made to heal if we give the body the resources it needs to function at its highest level. And I, my wish would be everyone listening to this podcast today to take a look at your health and your future and realize you've got to have the right mindset and discipline to do it. But then you've also got to find the right protocols. Just wanting it and willing to sacrifice, like you said yourself, you went and you tried different diets, you went to juicing, it just wasn't working. When you find the right protocols, the body will take over. So
Yeah, and
let's
I think that's where my I don't know success is when it comes to other people now is that I feel like my job is to help meet people where they're at. My job is I mean, I can help people like yourself, like tweak things, and I love doing that and, go from good to great. But what I'm really good at is like doing that one thing, like giving them something so simple that they can't fail, and making it very busy to interject that into their life where it's literally under a minute or two a day. I found this like one thing that will do that. Meet people where they're at, and then give them that anchor point, that foundation to build upon everything else. And what I'm trying to do is Dan, is give people energy. That's the first thing. I want to give them energy and mental clarity. And if I can give them those two things, now they have the energy to start making those changes, because we know everybody out there pretty much is 85% deficient. You're walking around on 15% fuel, even if you're eating organic, because it's not in the soil anymore. So if we can get that fixed and give you some energy, now you have energy to start changing things. And it's a tumbler that starts. It's just what works. As you have the energy now. Now you have the energy and you're feeling good. Like, okay, what else can I do? But when you have no energy, and the other one that sucks is pain. When people are in pain, they don't want to really do anything. Like I know when I'm in pain, I just want to go lay down. I don't want to do nothing. So if we can help people get out of pain and give them energy, that's kind of my main goal, is meeting people where they're at and giving these very simple, actionable things they can do to get out of that gutter.
So let's go into that then, because I agree. Everyone I've worked with has got better, um, in my own unique way of doing things, but it comes from their desire to want to in the first place. And then how do we break it down? But let's go into some of your actual protocols and things that you maybe see most of, or that wouldn't be the starting point for most people.
Yeah, so originally these things happened because I basically was just teaching that lifestyle that I learned at the Institute, right? At my home in a little mini fashion in one evening. And people would tell me, they would call me 2, 3, 4, 5 days later, like, dude, I still have energy from those juices and that one meal. I'm like, yeah, could you imagine what would happen if you were eating it every day like me? Like, that's the whole point. It's a lifestyle. One shot of wheatgrass, 1 2 ounce shot of wheatgrass, one 16 ounce green juice, half with sprouts that I grew.
Mm.
Sprout juice, peas and sunflower sprouts. Cucumber celery is the other half. And then I make them a living food dinner with a bunch of sprouts in it. And they would eat that one meal and have those one juices, and they would have energy for up to 5 days later from one meal. That was their body, that was their cellular structure finally absorbing living nutrition, which it's designed for. It's like perfect for it, and it's supposed to be getting that all the time. It was like a dried old sponge, and it just sucked it all up. It was like, thank you. The cells were very thankful, and boom, they got this huge boost of energy and mental clarity. So what I noticed was is that, see, I didn't know how to meet people where they were at, which was very busy, and time and that kind of stuff. So what I would do is I teach these classes, but a lot of people couldn't see themselves growing the sprouts. So that's why everybody started asking us, "Will you grow the sprouts?" So yeah, and so that's what we started. We had 40 to 60 cancer patients we were sending, because all these people with cancer started coming because of Charles's story, and then they would tell their friends, and it was kind of crazy. I had people knocking on my door in the middle of the night. There's nothing more they could do at the hospital. Please help me. I'm like, well, come on in, and just tell them what I'm telling you guys now. It's like, well, first off, and you're in that situation, you should probably go to the institute, because then you can be fully incubated and fully supported. I can kind of get you going now and incubate you here, get you ready, but you need to go to a place like that and get the full service. But that was standing. I taught people how to make wheatgrass shots and green juice in the sprouts. And so I was selling a lot of juicers for these juicing companies. But what happened was I went over to Chad's house, who was a CPA, who was so excited about Charles getting healthy and losing 60 pounds and me losing 42 pounds, because he knew both of us very rapidly within 90 days. And he's like, I'm in, whatever I got to do. And so he came to the class. He's like, bought the juicer. He had the money, no problem. And then I went over to his house like a month or two later, and I'm like, he went to the bathroom or something. I'm in his kitchen. Guess what I'm doing? I'm looking for the juicer. Where's the juicer? Where's your juicer at? Hey Chad, where's your juicer? He's like, oh, it's under the cupboard. Oh, here it is. I'm like, you're not even juicing anymore, are you? He's like, no. I was like, why not? I'm pissed. I'm like, you told me you wanted to change. You were so excited about this. Why aren't you doing it? And he's like, finally, he was like, I don't want to clean the damn juicer. Bottom line. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, it takes me like 45 minutes to make it and clean it. I'm like, well, yeah, in the beginning, but I said once you get good at it, I'm like, I can make two wheatgrass shots and two green juices in 17 minutes flat and have the juicer clean, done for me and my wife. He's like, yeah, I ain't gonna do it. My wife, I tried to talk my wife into doing it. She ain't gonna do it for me. She told me to F off. So I was like, oh, okay. And I went home and I'm like, well, this is a problem. This guy just spent $500 on a juicer because he wanted to change his life, but he's not doing it. And so that was kind of one of three stories that combined to finally got me. It's like, what could I teach people that would they could do that would be the least amount of effort would produce the most results? And that was a manual I created called the Four Core Secrets. And the first one was talking about water because we know 95% of people are not drinking enough water. They're not hydrated. You even said like a was it 2 or 3% reduction in or dehydration of water reduces like 80 is what's the number? It's like
Yeah,
80% reduction in efficiency.
no, it's about at an Olympic athlete level, 3% dehydration can lead up to 20% underperformance.
That's a big problem,
Yeah.
right?
It's
And
mental
that's
as
a
well.
big
It's not,
problem in your daily life too.
yeah.
Imagine we're talking average Joes. Like it's like how would you like to have 20% more increase in performance?
Well, they say
Well,
that
drink.
85% of adult Americans are in a chronic state of dehydration.
Oh,
Think
it's
about that.
horrible.
And when you look at an Olympic athlete at 3%, 20% underperformance, imagine they're also very focused on what they're doing. Most of us
Yeah.
aren't. The brilliance of the body is it will adapt to whatever becomes normal. So being dehydrated now feels normal, and we're not even aware that we have so little energy, so underperformance. The brain is one of the first things that begins to suffer from dehydration. You
Yeah.
think it's a muscle that cramps. You're way past at that point. So carry on. Sorry.
So that's thank you for elaborating. That sets the groundwork for this. So the bottom line was is I knew that dehydration was one of the massive issues out there, and it was simply just drink some freaking water. Carol had come to my class and then she showed up later, like 8 months later, at a yoga studio. I was teaching a class at the yoga studio. She was sitting right up front, and I'm like, God, I know that gal, but I couldn't tell who she was. But she looks different, but I know her. I kept thinking, I'm getting prayer, I'm getting ready, and then finally I'm like, do I know you? And you know, and the class is almost full. We're just about ready to start. And she's like, well, yeah. She goes, I attended one of your classes 8 months ago at your home, one of your dinner classes. I'm like, oh yeah. And I'm like, I knew you. It's like I thought I was going crazy or something. I go, but you look different for some reason. She's like, well, I hope you noticed. I've lost 8 or 50 pounds. I was like, you lost 50 pounds? She was pretty loud, and I'm talking loud. Now, the class has already started before the class even started. Everybody is focused on our conversation, the whole room. Everybody's quiet, and people are taking notes. And I'm like, well, what did you do? And she's like, well, you talked about all these things, but the one thing that I did was that I took away was instead of drinking coffee first thing in the morning, I drank a water and put some lemon in it. And then I'm like, okay, water with lemon. And then people are like, water, lemon, check before coffee. I mean, you see everybody taking notes, right? And I was like, well, what else did you go? She goes, well, that was it. And I'm like, you just drank water and you lost 50 pounds in 8 months? She's like, yeah, I just did it in the morning instead of coffee. I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing. And I already knew about this, but I was still amazed by it. I've been amazed over and over and over again, the simplicity. So that was the thing was like, what I do now is I can actually kill like three birds with one stone and probably a whole bunch more, but I'm going to focus on three birds. How, so what I, one thing when we left the Institute, and remember, they had over 600,000 people they've done clinical studies on. Everybody comes in, you're part of a study. And they're taking, you meet with a doctor, you meet with nurses, they have a rap sheet on you, and they follow up with you. They call you every year, and they keep notes on stuff. And what she said was, when it got to the green juices, these living green juices, she goes, if you're not drinking two green juices a day, you're not on the protocol. Do not expect the same results. Period. We've tested this. We've had people do one green juice a day in the mornings, nothing at night. But if you do both of them, it's exponentially better. And I was like, okay, because it only lasts for like 4 to 6 hours, and then it goes through your body. And you need another one. Okay. And so what I try to get people to do now is drink two green juices a day. And by doing this, whether you, now I know most of you, 9 out of 10 of you are not going to do it with a juicer. 1 out of 10 of you will. You will get the juicer, you will make it. Now, most of those people, though, had cancer as well, so they had They're back against the wall and a gun to their head. So they weren't working. Their job was healing.
Mm.
So I know a large percentage of you are not going to buy a juicer and you're not going to make two green juices a day. And most likely you're not going to be growing massive trays of sprouts to harvest and make those juices with the cucumber and the celery. I just know it because I've lived it. Okay. So but if it's like, how am I going to get people to do that? So that is where our first product came in, was called Green 85 Juice Formula. It was designed to replace the 85% of nutrients missing in the soil and make it easy for people, right? And now we finally made it taste good with the apple flavor that just came out. Did you get the apple flavor yet?
I haven't got it, but I'm excited because I take the Green 85 almost every single day, twice if I can.
Yeah, and so what's been your results? Like in your bicycling and stuff.
Oh no, well, I also take your Alpha Energy. I've got the Soldier. I've got the Gut Detox that I take as well. And I was already, see, this is the thing that people don't understand. I was already super healthy. And so it's hard to feel a big difference in most products when you are already healthy. And yet, when I was performing was when I noticed the difference. Because now I was racing faster, I was stronger, I had more endurance, I felt more energy. I wasn't getting drained like I was before. And that for me was the proof in the pudding of what it was doing to
Yeah.
me. Because I was already,
I remember calling you up and be like, "Hey, you getting any results yet?" And you're like, "Well, I've won like three out of my last or four of my last four races." And I was like, "Well, is that typical?" And you're like, "No." I'm like, "Well, that's kind of a big deal then, right?"
yeah, the performance. And so imagine if I was coming from an unhealthy place, how much more I would have had from my baseline to the top. Because we know
Yeah, yeah.
the hardest improvement is at the top 5%. In other words, the
Yeah.
top 5% of your performance is there. So, yeah, I'm really excited
So,
to
so,
try the
so
apple.
that was awesome. I really want to get the apple to you. So, so here's the thing: is like we just talked earlier about dehydration. It is a chronic, it's a national health security issue. I mean, this is a plague, this is a big problem, right? This is a pandemic of epic proportions, not
Mm,
drinking enough water. So, when you take the green powder that's concentrated and you mix it with the water, you're doing a couple things. You're hydrating, so we're solving that problem, and you're also replacing the 85% of nutrients. Now, there's a lot of green powders on the market. If you're already taking one, great. I would recommend you do it twice a day. But the proof's in the pudding, and I tell everybody, we'll put ours against anybody's. I know the industry very well. I don't even have to tell you all the stuff. Like, there's a certain company out there that has a very big name, and they have chemicals in their product. Okay, that's not going into mine. Like, if you look at where it says vitamin C on their label, in parentheses behind it, it says ascorbic acid. That is a synthetic. It's made in a laboratory. It's not made. It's not. It's like I call it cat poop in the brownie recipe. I ain't eating it, even if it's a little tiny bit,
mm,
and there's other certain chemicals and stuff in it. There's another brand that's one third like chicory root and inulin, and then another third of it's all these flavorings, and some of the flavorings are synthetic. Okay, it's hard to get concentrated greens at all to taste good, but most companies use a nickel or 10 cents a bag or bottle to put synthetics in there because it's cheap. When I made the apple flavor, it almost doubled the cost for me. Yet right now I still have it at the same price as the original because we used organic natural extract and we had to use a ton of it and lemon extract and cinnamon to get that covered. But it worked and it tastes amazing. So I can't wait for you to get it. So when you drink this green juice in the morning, you're hydrating the body like Carol did. You're going to get all the benefits. You're going to have more mental clarity. You're going to be able to find your keys instead of hunting around for your keys because your IQ is actually going to go up. You're going to be getting the greens flooding your body, where it's going to give you 4 to 6 hours of natural, sustained energy with no crash. It's better than coffee. And then in the afternoon, about a half an hour before dinner, you have another glass of water with 16 to 20 ounces with a scoop of the greens in it. You shake it up and you drink it again. And that's it. Okay. If you're at the beginning and you don't know what to do, that is it. That is exactly what you do. Because and what's going to happen is when you start doing this and get your phone out and plug it in, like drink greens and then put reminder, and then 4 o'clock in the afternoon or whatever the time is, an hour before dinner, drink greens, and start using your phone to program you. And if you're traveling, then take one with you, right? If you're a construction worker, make up your greens, drink it, and make up another one and put it in your bag and take it with you. Love yourself enough. Plan ahead. This is not hard. Take an extra bag with you. Take a gallon of water with you. And what you're going to notice is this is what's going to happen. You're going to get energy in 20 minutes. Okay. It's going to be sustainable. There's going to be no crash. Your grocery bill is going to drop in half because you're going to be eating half as much food. Literally, if you're doing it twice a day, literally, your grocery bill will be dropping in half because your cells are finally getting what they need. They will stop sending these signals to go eat. In America, we are malnourished, no different than a starving African child, yet we're overweight because of all these excess calories of processed food. There's no nutrients in this stuff, guys.
Mm.
The fulvics and the humics are gone. They're not even in. The minerals are gone out of the soil. They've been farmed out, processed out. It's deficient. You got weak soil, you got weak plants, weak people, weak animals, and then weak people in that food chain. That's just it. Okay, so this is not miraculous. But what we did is we took like wheatgrass juice and we concentrated it 21 to 1, 33 to 1. So it's highly concentrated and it's also doctor formulated. So it's wrapped in 10,000 years of biological engineering system science from Dr. Scott Treadway, who studied Ayurvedic traditional medicine and Chinese herbology. So his genius, his sourcing, he told me it took him 21 years to get the proper sourcing from the wholesalers and the farms to get the right ingredients. Everything's sun dried, air dried under 110 degrees, so it keeps the enzymes active. And you just do that thing. So now, in the afternoon, when you have it again, you're going to be eating much smaller dinners. Why is that a big deal? Because it's half as much food to process, which means that for entering into sleep mode, you're going to get into REM sleep much easier because you have less food in your stomach that needs to be processed first. So this is a massive, massive sleep hack as well. So that's it. That's where we usually meet everybody. Is we just say drink these 2 green juices a day, and you'll get more energy, more mental clarity right out of the gate. You'll probably start losing some weight, and your skin starts improving. Your gastrointestinal tract improves. You'll eat half as much food. You save a bunch of money. So the greens literally pay for themselves, and you're going to start sleeping better. And once you do that, then you just come to my inner circle, and then we'll tell you what's next, right? Once you have the energy and you have the results, and you're like, okay, this guy's not BSing me. I'll see what's next. And then we'll just slowly walk you into your best life ever. That's the goal.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I took the Green 85 with me to England when I went there recently, again with my mother's husband passing away. And she's so malnourished. And I was able to get her to take that every single day. And I'm excited because she's going to be coming to stay here with me for 4 to 6 weeks. We're really going to focus back on her health because
Yeah.
every day lost is a year lost, in my opinion, because she may not make it to that next year. And
Right.
so Green 85 is going to be a big part of that. And I'll be talking to you more as well about the other supplements that you recommend that she takes. Because again, there's nothing better than natural, healthy, which is going back to nature of what we're part of.
Yeah, and here's the thing is like I said, I don't care where people get their greens. I don't. If you can get a juicer and you want to start growing your sprouts, do that. That's probably the best thing you could ever do. But I just know from a time standpoint, and I've been in this industry for 15 years, it's just you have to meet people where they're at, and people are freaking busy. Both mom and dad are working, trying to make ends meet. We have kids nowadays, and a lot of the kids are sick, throat, nose, and ear doctors appointments all the time. Now, mom and dads are sick, and we're having to caretake for our moms and dads, and dementia, and Alzheimer's, and Parkinson's, and all this crap that's going on. All of this stuff can be halted and reversed when we start taking responsibility for our health, and we just pause for a moment and go, okay, well, um, yeah, what's going on is not working. Okay. And I can't rely on some system to help me. I mean, shit, I've got doctors that were going to medical school in the 70s, and they were telling me that the professors were telling them by the year 2000, we will have cured all disease. That's what they were told. We are so good at what we do that by the year 2000, we will have cured all disease. That's what they were telling the medical professionals in the 70s. And then he goes, well, have we cured all disease? No, now we got more diseases. We are the sickest people have ever been on the face of the earth, ever. Period. Our life expectancy for our children is now less than ours. Our children will die younger than us. So the system's broken. But guess what? It's really easy. We all we have to do is tap back into this system that God designed in the beginning. It's called nature. Your body's from nature. It's mostly made of water. You find that in lakes and ponds and rivers. Your gut microbiome is made out of bacterium, the same ones that are in the soil. The soil is the gastrointestinal tract of the plants, and it is the immune system of the plants, a big part of it. Just like yours is inside of you, it just happens to be outside of the plants. Your bones are made of what? Minerals. Where do you get that? Rocks, dirt, soil, nature. And when you die, you're supposed to go back into it's a cycle of life. Your body gets eaten up. I see it all the times up in the woods. There's a dead deer, and then there's little nibbles on the bones where mice are eating it for minerals. They'll nibble on the bones and they sit there and chew on them and they get the minerals. It's a cycle of life. That's it. If you get back to nature, you can heal yourself from, I believe, from anything. And if you're really sick, I would definitely go somewhere where it's more tropical and warm and there's sunshine. Get that vitamin D, get fresh air, get those negative ions out there at the beach and the mountains, and ground yourself and get naked and get your feet naked at least and touch the earth, and be around people that love you and lift you up rather than people that tear you down. Sometimes we have to detox people out of our lives, and
Yeah.
sometimes very quickly if we really want to heal. It's not just the toxic chemicals. There's toxic people around too.
Yeah, and we also know in those sunshine places when you can be by the ocean actually changes the setup in your body, it actually resets your body as well. It's got an incredible impact on us. I want to finish with this because I want you to come back. We're not going to finish today. We're going to finish this podcast, but I want you to come back and explain more because I know the depth that you've got going into so many different therapies that you've tested, from urine therapy that we've spoken about to all the different things that you deep dive and basically put yourself as a guinea pig for other people to be able to know the benefits that could come to them. But I want you to go back to where we started. I want you to take Tim James, 40, 50 pounds overweight, working in the financial world, suffering, but can't leave. So we're taking Tim and putting him back into the world. What would you give as tips that you can't leave that job, but the things that you would do for you back then that would have changed your life? So someone listening in that situation could say, I'm going to follow that without being able to change out of the financial world.
Well, the first thing I would say statistically is start drinking purified water and lemon, and even better, throw some greens in it, and
Okay.
just do that twice a day. I mean, it sounds so simple. It's like people want some complicated thing, but the bottom line is that how's that complicated working for you? And it's freaking expensive. It costs a lot of money for some of this stuff. The bottom line is that all the answers that you need, you have access to them inside of yourself. And that's a weird concept, and a lot of people can't understand it because I know I couldn't understand it back then. But as I started, changing my lifestyle and living a more alkaline, oxygenated, got back into movement, my cells started vibrating at a higher frequency, and you literally your mind starts changing channels. It's like you change a channel, and all of a sudden you start seeing things differently, and then it changes again and again, and you're actually going up this ladder, this vibrational ladder of energy. And then as you go up that ladder, you're just changing channels, changing channels. You'll start seeing things differently than you saw before. And a lot of that is that self-love component. You'll actually start loving yourself more. And all that, the societal conditioning and parental conditioning, you just start letting go of it. You just like it because it's not working. It doesn't work. And we've created our own little prisons, from all this conditioning that we've been a part of. And when you become free again and you start seeing everything, you just don't stress out anymore. I don't stress out about hardly anything anymore. I just live in the moment, and do that. But as far as like something, if somebody's just looking for something to do, I've talked about it in depth today, is start drinking some liquid, some green juice liquids to get those phytonutrients and the water in your body twice a day, and start with that and make that your foundation. And if you want to go up the ladder, then you can start doing something else or come to our inner circle and we'll show you the next step. Maybe we'll talk about that next time, but you got to start with something small, Dan. Otherwise, it's too overwhelming and then people fail, right? It has to be very easy to do. Very easy to do. And I think that's probably the easiest thing. And I just had the inner circle again last Wednesday, and I was like interviewing people, the alumni, for the new people. And it's like, what did you do? What made the big change? It was like, well, it was really those green juices. That was the big. comeback from almost 80, 90% of it. It was the green juice. It was the green juice. It was the green juice. Because the green juice just isn't these concentrated greens. It's putting water into the system and it's helping to reduce the amount of food you eat, which is improves your sleep. And there's nothing wrong with saving money either. So,
Brilliant. Well, I'm going to open up some time and get you back on here immediately so that we can continue one onto the other because I know people will be fascinated to learn more. But between that time of this one getting launched and maybe a week or two later, the next one coming out, it'd be great if people could commit to themselves to doing what you're saying, which is getting that better hydration, getting the greens, and taking that between the first podcast and the next one, because then you'll be even more engaged because you will have felt the difference at that time. Last question for you, Tim. What is one message that you would like to leave to people that also you would love as your legacy?
probably say put yourself first. Yeah, put yourself first. People talk about that all the time. The plane's going down. They even tell you, the flight attendants tell you, put on your oxygen first and then take care of your child. This was a very interesting concept. Um, I grew up, I'm very loyal, especially my friends and family. I have kids. I'll take a bullet for them, and no question. It's like, I like that. It's like, I'll do that. However, what I've noticed is that, if somebody before I got into all doing all this health stuff would have said, who's more important, you or your kids? I would have said my kids. But I would have realized that I would have said that out of my good heart because that's the way I was raised, but also it was conditioning. And what I've realized is that that conditioning is not good for the kids, number one, that you want to help, nor yourself. And let me explain. I have coached, I've had 750 people that I've coached plus one on one through this transformative process. I've also done over 2,500 health history intake forms of people reaching out to us for one on one coaching and help. And many people are putting their kids first in their minds and in their actions, and they're not taking care of themselves. And then they find themselves in a health crisis, and then they can't take care of anybody. And so you have to understand that baby bear is going to do what mama bear and papa bear are doing. They're watching every move that you make, especially when they're younger. I think it's in theta mode or whatever. Dan would know more about that stuff. They're in learning mode. And you'll notice it when they have those cuss words that come out of their mouth perfectly when they're like 2 or 3 years old. Well, where do you think they got it? And everybody's laughing, but but it's like, well, it came from mommy and daddy because dad cussed or whatever. They're watching everything you do. So let's take this out. If you want the best life for your children, do you want them to have your life? And that's a simple yes or no. Stressed out, malnourished, tired, dragging your ass out of bed, stimulating yourself with moldy coffees and 5 hour energy drinks and Mountain Dew and Red Bull and Monster drinks and putting aluminum in your brain from all these aluminum cans, all this crap, and then you come home, you drink it, and then you have a few beers and some wine to relax your nervous system. That's usually the thing. Hang out with your friends and watch some football and drink some beers. Hang out with your lady friends and pound some wine. No judging, but this is what's going on. I know because I would I walk around on garbage pickup day in the inner city, and the recycling bins are full of beer and wine bottles, packed full. And look at the size of the wine and beer sections and liquors inside of grocery stores. They're massive. People are drinking themselves to death. And so all those things are happening and you're stressed out. And then like this one guy, he didn't even have the energy to play catch with his son. He could barely pick himself up off the couch, right? And so what do you think message you're sending to your children when you're doing that? So the other option is now if somebody asks me, Tim, who's more important, you or your kids? I am. I am more important. I put myself first. I put the oxygen mask on first. Okay? I'm drinking the water. I'm drinking the greens. I'm moving my body. I'm being very loving towards other people. I don't think things are good or bad. They're just contrast, and I get a benefit out of it regardless of what happens in this life. And when I started doing that, now I'm setting that example for my kids. right? I'm taking care of my health and I'm strong and I can go save somebody if they're drowning. I couldn't do that probably when I was 42 pounds overweight, and probably, I'd probably kill myself trying to do it,
Mm.
right? So the message is put yourself first, become the best, healthiest version, high vibe version of yourself, and set that example for your kids and hand them that permission slip. Or you can just be contrast for them like my dad is for me with the processed food and the pills and going, boy, I hope I don't ever want to do that. So, those are a couple different ways of looking at it. There's no judgment here. All of the choices, whether you want to eat processed foods and be on pharmaceutical drugs, that, my friend, is a valid choice. But I want to let you know there's a whole another thing called nature, and your body is you're a wild creature, and you can go into that deal and get really healthy, healthier than you ever thought possible, and heal yourself just like I did. And that is a valid choice too. And there's a bunch of valid choices anywhere in between. But if anybody wants to go to the nature wagon and do that, I've been doing that for 15 years. I would love to be your guide. I'd love to do it.
And they'd be very fortunate to have you. It's fascinating coming into your circle and seeing the people in there, and your passion for it equals your knowledge, which is beautiful. Normally, people have a lot of knowledge, but not a lot of passion, or a lot of passion, but not a lot of knowledge. I'll be dropping the links into the what are they called, the subtitles, or into the text so people can locate you, find you out there. But I want to thank you so much for this part one. I normally don't open up a second part, but I'm excited to get you back onto here. Hopefully, you'll be able to grace us with more of your knowledge, more of your passion. And I want to say, Tim,
We'll probably end up doing a whole series. I got a lot of stuff that I've learned.
I'm sure it will be invaluable. But Tim, thanks so much for joining us here on Born Superhuman today. Remember, chemicalfreebody.com. And thanks for sharing your story, Tim. It was fascinating.
My pleasure. I'm just honored you had me on your show, buddy.
Thank you.